Hey, I'm Isabel,
And I'm Aviva. You're listening to When Isabel Met Aviva.
a podcast about rom-coms, female-driven screenwriting, and how to break into the entertainment industry.
Okay, so we are back. How's it going?
Good. I'm like, what day is it?
I don't even
I
know
can't keep
anymore.
track.
Yeah. I'm on spring break now, so
Oh, fun.
so chill times.
Yeah. Okay, where should we begin? I was
Yeah.
like, what were the questions I had I was going to ask you?
Yeah, I'm curious. Yeah, I made a little list. Maybe this is more stuff to talk about on like a solo episode together, but yeah, I saw Wuthering Heights, hated it so much.
It's so interesting because I've heard such mixed reviews of it. I know people who were like, they absolutely loved it. They thought it was so beautiful. They thought it was like, romantic. And I'm just like, okay. I mean, but then I hear other people are like, I hate it. It was horrible.
It's so weird. It's like people saw different movies because I
Really?
because it's like I also have seen like on social media people like filming themselves sobbing at the end of Wuthering Heights. I'd be so curious what you would think. I don't
No, I'm like, should I watch it?
I'm really curious because
It's
it's just
so
like
hard for me to sit through a movie if I'm not like excited about it at all, though. So that's where I'm just
I
like,
know.
I feel like it's something I would like watch on an airplane, or like if I really was like, I can't make a decision, I'll watch it. But I don't know. Now I'm kind of curious. Maybe.
I am really curious what you think because what's that movie with Emma Stone that was super bizarre? Where she's not. It's like a Frankenstein kind of movie. What was that called?
Oh, Poor Things.
That's the energy of Wuthering Heights, I would say.
Okay, but see, I never saw Poor Things because
okay.
I thought like it was gonna be. I'm like, I don't know, which I would think I would like that kind of movie.
Yes. It's very avant-garde, and I don't enjoy that. So I'm so curious
But
now.
I'm also realizing that it's like how it just feel like it is your mood really can impact, like I feel like when I wanted to see that movie, I was in a really weird place. So I was like, I don't have the mental capacity to watch a movie like this, which I kind of feel that's sort of how I feel right now about Wuthering Heights, more so though that I don't know, that's like what I want to spend my time watching right now.
Exactly. I do feel like those kinds of movies, I mean, this is why we watch rom-coms, those types of movies like Wuthering Heights, I feel like I need therapy after them. Like they're just like they're just so psychologically disturbing that I'm like, why am I paying to enjoy this?
Yeah.
So
I'm just like laughing in my head at myself because I'm thinking about like if people who know me hear me, they're just probably like laughing at me. Like I literally am like, I don't have the mental capacity to watch Wuthering Heights, but then I literally have been watching the last season of Love Is Blind. So
yeah.
I am not someone who
I love Love Is Blind.
Giving any kind of advice about
film. If people went to my letterbox right now, they'd be like, this woman does not have great taste.
Can you imagine? They really should do like you know how they do the Spotify Wrapped? Imagine if they did that for like Netflix or just all your streaming platforms, and it was like the truth really comes out. Like this person streamed 5,000 hours of reality television.
No, I love Love Is Blind. Are you watching the Ohio season?
Yeah.
Oh, so good, so good. It's already over now for me, so I'm like, I don't even know what I watched. It just like goes right through.
I know, right? Yeah, that was my first time like watching that show, and just like a reality show. I feel like in general, like that type of reality show, all the way through, and it was really fun to like watch it with my sister and everything. But I left it feeling like emotionally drained. I was like, I can't believe people go on this.
Sometimes I don't know. I've been watching this other horrible Netflix reality show called Age of Attraction.
I was just gonna say, is it Age of Attraction? I started it, but I had to stop, and I kind of want to know.
It's not as good. I think it's not honestly constructed as well as Love Is Blind. I feel like Love Is Blind is like very well edited, and I don't know. It's an art form, but Age of Attraction, I'm just disturbed. Kind of the same feeling as when I was watching Wuthering Heights, but in a different way. I just feel kind of repulsed.
It's all about age, right?
Yeah, I just feel, we've talked about age gap relationships and rom-coms, and I just, if it's like 10 years, that's okay, I guess. But if it's like more, then I just like am very disturbed.
It's also like, okay, I have two thoughts. The first is that I've watched like I think 2 episodes of that show now. And I did find the people's interviews interesting when they're talking to them, because I am like I find it interesting just to hear people's perspectives on like how they're going about it, with how they're like, you know, how they are trying to like go about this experience for the experiment of it. And I find that those interviews are kind of interesting with the people where they're sort of like discussing that. But I have issue with like the guy who's like, you know, in his 40s, like he knows how old he is. The girl he's pursuing is so obviously like in her early 20s.
She gives such like child energy, which I hate. You're talking about the blonde girl, right?
Yeah,
who's
exactly.
like,
yeah.
She looks even younger than, this is a spoiler, she looks even younger than 22, in my opinion.
I thought she was going to say that she was 18.
Me too.
Remember when she was like, I'm not that far from 14. And I was thinking like, is this going to turn out that you literally are like 18 and they're like, all right, you meet the minimum requirement to come on the show.
I think when we're older, like if, you know, 30s, 40s, whatever. But I do judge that guy who's 38, who has children who are teenagers.
And he's openly admitted that he's dated and pursued younger women too. So I'm just like,
red
why
flag.
are we giving this guy any time of day or a platform? This is not going to age well. But I stopped watching after, I don't want to give any spoilers, but there's like a woman and an older guy, like another one, who get together and they go to the room and they find out their ages. And I again was just like, this man is literally your parent, like your age of your dad.
I think this is as far as I am too. Yes, we're so similar. And then I stopped watching too. I was like, okay, I've had enough.
I kind of was like, like the fact that she was like gonna roll with it still, and I was just like, what do you guys seriously have in common? Like it made me start to feel icky thinking that she has something with her maybe that is going on that should maybe go to therapy for, because I was like,
I know. This I don't know if I'll continue watching, but yet I will just say, yeah, Love is Blind is more enjoyable than Wuthering Heights, and I enjoy movies like What a Girl Wants much more than Wuthering.
From this,
I'm a cinephile.
This should be the reel from this episode. Love is Blind is more enjoyable than Wuthering Heights.
Yeah, maybe see Wuthering Heights and let me know.
Okay, if I get around to
it. But I do, before we run out of time and introduce our guest, I want to talk about your script maybe for a second, and then did you have questions about something? So in the past week I read Isabel's script, Family Time, and it was so good. And I'm not just saying that, like I've read a lot of peers' scripts before, let's just say. We've been and I just think you're like my writing soulmate, because I just love your writing so much.
It's so funny. I seriously thought about you where I was like, I can't wait for Aviva to read this, because I just like knowing you right outside of being a screenwriter, that we also share the like interest in like, you know, the kind of spirituality stuff and the health stuff. And I was like, I think Aviva will really like the character of Robert and like Luna and their kind of like things that they say. But I love too that it like cracked me up so much when you texted me that you wanted the astronaut, because that's literally in my little like dump script thing that I've been doing, are all the scenes of Amelia and like this like female astronaut like having like a little like just like a little love story. But I just was like, this is taking away, it's like, how much time do we really have for this? Like,
this is a good example of like an ensemble piece, and kind of how we were talking about last week with like, you know, ABC storylines and like how much to flesh that out. So
that was what was also interesting for this is the first ensemble cast movie that I've written too. So it is interesting to figure out how do you like get enough time for everybody, because like ideally, because it's an ensemble cast, they all like have like, you know, same amount of like screen time, right, essentially. But yeah, I just thought it was funny that it's like this was me attempting to not write a rom-com, but that I feel like we both had the same like, but it's kind of missing the rom-com part to it.
Yeah, I would love a little more romance. I'm excited to discuss this weekend with our group, but I really enjoyed it. And yeah, like if I produce stuff and if I had money, I would produce this one too. Like I genuinely would. Because
so that was what I was going to ask you, is because I feel like now that I have this one done, and then I think I am going to try and finish my Indian rom-com one next, but I was looking at, I went kind of back through to like grab my one pager for this when I sent it to my producer, and I saw the one that you made for your terminally single one, right?
Is
And
that the
so
one I sent you, the airport one?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because I was like, oh, I do like how you like brand them, but I'm curious if like I also noticed that you also have it like hosted on a Google Drive. So I was thinking like, oh, this is all like, you're so organized, like professional. And I was like, have we discussed this on the pod? Because I feel like you need to tell people what you do.
Yeah, what do I do? Yeah.
That.
I was thinking as well, we should have a whole episode soon where we just talk about like a screenwriter starter pack. Like, because people ask me occasionally, like, where do I start? But that's a whole other.
I was literally like looking back at the emails you've sent to me to be like, what do I do next? And I'm like, have you guys told me this before? So what is she doing?
The Google Doc, Google Drive, I've been using a lot more in recent times because I feel like, yeah, that's just like easier to organize. You can also see when people open the email if you track emails, a little creepy, versus you can't see if they like open up a PDF. Yeah, so Canva, and then I put it on a Google Drive link, and yeah, what are we talking? What else should I say?
No, I was curious as to like why you, because I guess that was part of my question was like, so you take your one page, or you kind of design like a title page, right? That like, you put together, and then you just put the one pager into like a Canva template, so like it looks really nice. And do you find that producers, like when you send it to them, do you send it as an attachment of a PDF, and then is the link, or are you linking out to it?
I usually lately my approach has changed where I just send them a link to the Google Drive, the one pager there, but I have just attached it before. Part of my reward for writing a script sometimes, although I guess for this one I already made a poster, is I like making a poster like after just for me, and then I'm like, I should include this. I just love Canva, and I love like basic graphic design kind of stuff. So I just send it in a link. And as for how people have responded, I don't know. My cold emailing is not had much success lately, but I do feel like it's professional. And I always put like, I have a poster, then I do on the second page, I have a title, the log line, comps, synopsis, and then why now has kind of been my formatting for the one pager.
And are you cold emailing producers or agents, or
I've tried both, but honestly, it's been a little discouraging about actually getting responses.
I thought you had made some connections from like, emailing people.
A while ago, I've gotten some generals. So I guess it kind of works, but like this past round, I emailed like four or five managers. I saw they opened the email, but I got no response, and that's kind of frustrating. But probably very common. So yeah, have you been sending any cold emails, or are you thinking of starting?
I haven't. Yeah, I was like thinking about preparing to start, which that maybe will take a few months because I want to obviously polish this draft once I get like everyone's more feedback from people, and then I feel like once I have like that obviously cleaned up and everything, and then finish the arrangement, the Indian rom-com, then I will feel like, okay, I've got 2 like original scripts, and then I also have like the scripts that I did, for other producers that I can at least like mention. So that makes me feel like I can package myself more to like reach out to managers, or if I want to, I did think about, I noticed on IMDb you can make like a list, and like you can organize people by that. So I was thinking about making lists for like who would be the ideal people that I would like want to produce or like direct, or like that I feel like I could reach out to for my projects. And like, I was going to start making lists. So then when I feel ready to send it all out, I can like go in and like pay for their actual contact information.
IMDb Pro. It's amazing. Well, Elise is in the lobby, but I would love to keep talking about, maybe we can talk about it with her. Should I quickly introduce Elise, who's our guest today? Alys Murray. She is a screenwriter. She has written for Hallmark and Lifetime and some other streamers that she can tell us about. And she's a novelist. I know she's very much into the rom-com. I don't know her very well. I was just telling Isabel before we were recording. But another writer friend just said that we should connect with her. So that's what we did. So yeah. Okay, let's let her in.
All right.
Welcome, Elise. It's nice to meet you.
It is so good to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
So can we just start, talking about your like an introduction and what you do and the rom-com? I know you have some credits with Lifetime and Hallmark, right? So I would love to hear about that.
Yeah, I've been very lucky. I started out, I wanted to be like a big musical theater director and went to New York and realized not only did I not want to do that, but I wasn't good at it. So I decided to try playwriting and loved playwriting. And while I was studying playwriting, I discovered that I really loved romance novels. And so I wrote a couple of romance novels while I was still in college, while I was an undergrad. And those kind of picked up steam. And one of the ones that I published was for Hallmark Publishing. They used to have a publishing line at the time, which no longer exists, sadly. But I got a random DM in my Twitter inbox back when that was a thing about a million years ago. And this guy was like, I'm a big Hollywood producer and I want to talk to you. And I was like, that's dumb, delete. And so I thought it wasn't real. And then happened to be at dinner with some people that night and they were like, I mentioned it like kind of as a funny story, and they were like, "Oh no, I know that guy. He like actually is a producer. You need to talk to him." And I was like, "Oh wow. No!" Like ran back to my inbox and was like, "I don't know how this got lost in the shuffle. Ha ha ha. Let's talk." And he turned out to be producing movies for Hallmark and Lifetime, and tax credits in Louisiana being what they are, it's cheaper if you're making a movie in Louisiana to have a Louisiana screenwriter. And he knew I was kind of already in the Hallmark Lifetime romance ecosystem. And so he reached out and was like, I need a rewrite done on this script and I need it in 10 days. And I was like, oh yeah, sure, I can do that. No problem. And at the end of the phone call, he was like, hey, just to confirm, just to make sure I'm covering my bases, you have written a screenplay before, right? And I was like, And the truth was I hadn't. I had never written a screenplay. I had written like a short film, like for a Star Wars fan contest that I was immediately rejected from. And I wrote the movie in 4 days because I was so afraid it was going to be so bad that I would have to rewrite it. And like, I had 10 days to write it. And then like day 11, they were going to shoot. So like, we didn't have time for me to write a bad script. Wow. So I rewrote it in 4 days. And on day 5, they got back to me and they were like, we love this. This is what we're going to shoot. And they did. And it ended up being kind of a sleeper hit for Lifetime that year. And thankfully, people kept calling me and kept liking working with me. And so I've gotten to write for Viacom CBS when they had a TV movie division. I just wrote and directed a horror rom-com short for Netflix's Visionary Fellowship, which was so much fun. We had a blast doing that. And I'm getting to keep writing these rom-coms and moving up in the world. And, theatrical is next, hopefully, after TVs and streamers. So keep your fingers crossed for me, but I've been very lucky and it's a dream job. Literally, I sit at my laptop all day and I make fake people kiss. Like there is not a better job in the whole world. So very, very happy to be doing it and happy to talk to y'all about it.
That's so cool. What was the name of the first movie that you had in?
The first one, it was called, the original title was, I think, Cane River Christmas. But of course, no one outside of like South Louisiana knows what Cane River is. So we called it Christmas in Louisiana. So, did what it said on the tin. And then I got to write a bunch set in Louisiana, which was really fun. I got to write one of Hallmark's very first, if not the first, Christmas movie without snow. Like that used to be a big rule there, was you could not have a Christmas movie that did not have snow. And so I got to write one of, if not the first, snowless Christmas movie, which was a delight.
I love that.
Yeah, that's such a good fun fact.
Yeah, because now
for sure.
Yeah, the norm is kind of tropical or in Peru or like
the escapist Christmas is big now, but back in the day it was not. And I also got to write one of, if not the first, lesbian romance, which was really fun. Like I got to do a lot at Hallmark and continue to get to do a lot at Hallmark that I think if you told somebody who isn't really in the Hallmark world, like if you're a person who passively sees memes making fun of Hallmark movies, you would be surprised at the things I've gotten to do. But it's been a lot of fun. I love working there.
That's so cool.
Thanks.
Yeah. Oh, and I also wanted to mention, so for the short, this is kind of all over the place, but the short that you just made, I think it was edited by someone I know. Was it edited by Gabe Nathan?
It sure was. How'd you know Gabe?
So I live on Bainbridge, and I met him through like film making here. So yeah, I just remembered that.
So I actually met Gabe through Emily Moss Wilson, who we co-wrote a bunch of these movies together, and she directed a bunch of them. And he was like a PA who moved up to locations manager on her indie that shot in Bainbridge. And I was like, I need somebody who can work for basically nothing. And she was like, Gabe loves working for cheap. And he did an amazing job. He was such a great editor, so great to work with. So how funny.
Yeah, small world. And you're talking about, we can also connect this to another guest we've had, Inheritance.
Yes.
Right? The movie. And we had Rachel Noel James on the podcast as well. So
there you go.
Small world.
It really is a small world. It's amazing. The more time you spend in this industry, the smaller and smaller it gets, right? And it's always 1 or 2 degrees of separation from the next person you need to be friends with. It's great, especially in this kind of corner of the ecosystem. Romance has been a really, rich ground for making very cool friends, including Gabe and Emily.
Yeah, so such a small world. Yeah, can you talk about the fellowships, I guess? I'm curious about those. And was one for a disability initiative, or were they both? And I'm just curious about that.
I've done a couple with a group now called Disability Belongs, which used to be called Respectability, an entertainment fellowship lab with them. And then I've now done a grant program and a fellowship with the Inevitable Foundation. And the Inevitable Foundation, 25% of Americans are currently disabled, and most people in the world will be disabled at some point in their life or experience a disabling event. But less than 2% of working Hollywood creatives are disabled or have a disability, or a part of like the deaf community, for example. And they really saw a space for, IDEA and DEA programs don't typically include accessibility or disabled folks in their kind of breakdown of people to include. And so they have been really great about fighting the good fight to get people the credits that they need, the connections they need, the money and the space and the time and the support and the access needs met that they required in order to do the work. They've done really amazing studies and funded a bunch of great initiatives to improve our visibility in the community. And I was really lucky to be involved in their very first collaboration with Netflix, which is called the Visionary Fellowship. And basically they took 5 disabled screenwriters and they gave us kind of a year of training and development and a lot of great infrastructure to help us transition from screenwriters into directors, because I don't know how many meetings y'all are taking in the industry lately, but pretty much everyone is allergic to hiring a separate writer and a separate director. But typically it's very difficult for disabled folks to be on sets. Sets are just not accessible places. So we don't have the kind of on the ground training broadly that like a lot of other folks may have in order to make that transition to becoming directors. And so Inevitable was like, and Netflix were like, we're going to give you money. We're going to give you access coordination. We're going to help you make the best short films y'all can. So you now have this credit on your resume. So you have the ability to go to festivals and meet folks and network. And so I made a short film that I cannot believe Netflix let me call it this. It's called Beware Cock-Blocking Ghosts. And it's about a teenage girl who really wants to go to homecoming with her crush, but the poltergeist of her dead best friend has other plans for them. So it's a bloody, rompy, fun mess. I always say it fits somewhere on your shelf between Clueless and Carrie. It's a blast, and we had such a great time making it. It stars Julia Lester, who, if you're a theater fan, you probably know her from Into the Woods. She's a Tony nominee. She was also in High School, the series. I always forget how many musicals are in there. And done a bunch of stuff for Netflix. So we just had the best time. And I love getting to see what rom-coms can do when you put them in other genres. I like to kind of take the keys to genre and see how far it can go. And so it was really just a blast to get to do a horror take on a rom-com.
That's so fun.
Yeah, that's amazing. So is it going to premiere on Netflix, or how does it work?
So right now we're doing the festival circuit. So we're doing the whole begging other people to like us and give us some clout, and then we see where it goes. But for now it's waiting for its global premiere at a great festival somewhere. We had an industry premiere at the Academy in LA in November, which was so much fun. But now we're doing the festival circuit like all other beleaguered filmmakers. You know, it's an adventure.
Yeah, good luck. That sounds so exciting. That's amazing.
Thank you.
And I do know the actress you're talking about. I think I did see the High School Musical show back in the day. Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
I wanted to back up a moment actually and go back to when you first had that like first job, right, with the Hallmark producer guy, and when he, you know, asked if you knew how to write a screenplay and you kind of just like were like, yeah, sure. What did you do? Did you like look up how to write a screenplay? Did you read screenplays?
It's so funny. So funny you mentioned that. So I was actually at the time, I was about to get married. My husband's European, and so we were traveling around waiting for his green card. So like every month we would move to a different country. So I was fully remote, not even in America at the time. Still had residency in Louisiana, but was traveling part of the year so we could be together as like a couple while we were waiting on his green card. And so we were in Budapest at the time, and I went to the nearby English language bookstore and bought the only book on screenwriting that they had that was in English and read that. And then I had a friend who knew Julie Sherman Wolfe, who's like a very prolific, famous Hallmark writer. And I was like, hey, do you think Julie would be okay if I emailed her? And she was like, yes, just email Julie. And so I emailed her and I was like, Julie, this is what's happening. I don't know what to do. And Julie was like, here's a copy of Snow Bride screenplay. Read it. It'll be your guide. And it was. And I will forever be so grateful to Julie for that. And she is like the North Star guiding light of the Hallmark firmament. So I am very grateful to her. And that was what I did. I read Save the Cat and I read Snow Bride. And then I made a movie career off of that somehow.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
That's amazing. But I do think reading scripts is kind of all people need. And maybe like a book, honestly. I mean, I've read a lot of we were just talking about how we should have a whole episode, just like a starter pack for newbie screenwriters. Because I feel like just reading scripts is the key.
That's what I used to teach at UCLA. And I would get like, people would in the program would get mad at me. They would look at my syllabus and be like, well, where is the theory books? Why aren't you teaching out of this textbook? Why aren't you doing this? And I'm like, so much of screenwriting is reading and watching movies and reading screenplays, watching movies. You internalize it and it becomes like a muscle that you work while you're writing. And so things become intuitive and instinctual. And your gut kind of guides you more than like, well, here is the formula and here are the scenes that I slot into the formula. And, you know, you learn how character and story push rather than like, well, now we are at page 30 and on page 30, this is the thing that needs to happen. I think textbooks can kind of mathematize screenplays in a way that eventually becomes quite soulless. And I'm like, I think something that I am thinking a lot more about as like the AIification of our industry becomes more rampant is an AI can read the screenwriting book, right? But the AI cannot take the big swings that I'm taking. And AI does not know the big human element of like risk taking and, you know, going for it. They just don't. They know how to like regurgitate things that we've already seen 50 million times. So I think reading screenplays and watching movies and figuring out, why do I love that moment so much? Why do I love this romantic turn? Why do I love this character? That is what is going to inform how you write good stories that other people are going to resonate with, rather than like, this is the Aristotelian idea of what a rom-com is, perhaps.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. And the imperfection, we've talked about this on the show too. Like, I think the more perfect things become with like AI imagery or all this stuff I don't really like I don't know, I'm going to crave imperfection in a different way, maybe.
Yes. Yeah. And I think some of our most iconic rom-coms are our most imperfect. Like, I think about 10 Things I Hate About You. It's one of my favorite rom-coms of all time. If that comes across an executive's desk right now, they're going to say, hey, these characters only have like 5 scenes together. Why would we believe they're in love with each other? Like, there's so little of that main couple actually on the page, and certainly in the execution, because there are a couple scenes that are cut from the screenplay that don't make it into the shoot. But it is a perfect rom-com. Like, I would pick that almost every day over something that's like more rom-com perfect, because there's something ephemeral in the chemistry and in the writing and in the pacing and the music and the visuals. Like, sometimes it just works, and imperfect can work. It's sometimes better than perfection.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
I'm kind of curious to know if you still write plays, and like if you notice a difference between like playwriting and screenwriting.
I do definitely notice a big difference, and I do still write them. I still usually write like a romance theme through all of my work. I usually tell people I'm genre agnostic but thematically devout. So like, I don't care if I'm writing sci-fi, western, horror, contemporary, like I'm always going to have a romantic element. So like the last play that I wrote was about set in the 60s in a Moscow hotel, and it's about like an American who comes to Russia, and he has been pen pals with this Muscovite, USSR Soviet press agent. And at the same time, he says he wants to marry her and defect to Russia, and she says she wants to marry him and defect to the US. And so they're stuck in this hotel room that's clearly bugged, trying to figure out how they're gonna, like, how the rest of their life is gonna go. And like, I love, the thing about plays that are great is that it's all about the language, and it's all about the banter, and it's all about how you can make two people in a room talking interesting. Whereas, because you're stuck, right? Like, you've paid $200 for the seat, ma'am. You're staying there no matter what I throw at you. Generally speaking, not always. But, now cinema, the buy-in is more so than ever. It's so easy to turn a movie off, right? Like, most of us are just watching our movies on our couch, and there's 60 million other things we can change to in an instant. It's not even like the old days where you paid the $25 for you and your family to go, and then you all bought popcorn, and well, I guess we're going to stay now and just hope it gets better if you don't like the first 10 minutes. So plays are great because I get to like have fun with language and chemistry and banter. Whereas on film, you really have to keep people engaged and keep people watching. And perhaps even more importantly, before you even get to that point, you have to keep an executive reading, which is the hardest thing in this industry to get to do, is to get anybody to read. So it's like, you got to keep people turning those pages of the screenplay. But yeah, I still write plays, and I still love writing plays. It's just a totally different muscle, just like writing a book is a totally different muscle.
Yeah. Would you say you spend most of your time doing playwriting, screenwriting, or novel writing, or is that hard to generalize?
Playwriting is definitely the smallest one. I pretty much just do that for fun. I haven't had a play produced since I was living in London. I have won like a couple of awards, but like haven't really fought to have anything made. Frankly, there's just no money in it, and I have student loans to pay. And like, if Mr. Broadway comes over tomorrow and is like, I'll give you $1 million for your play, it'll be different. But for now, I gotta work. But I think it's kind of 50-50 books to movies.
Okay, cool.
The thing about a book is, like, in my brain, they take up kind of 50-50. But writing a book just takes so much longer. Like, I usually write the first draft of a screenplay in 10 working days. Like, I spend a ton of time prepping and getting ready and brainstorming and outlining and creating cards and whatever, and I walk around with the idea for a very long time. So by the time I sit down, it's about 10 pages a day. And, by the end of week 2, I'm like, I have a thing that I'm going to have to spend 4 months editing. Whereas with a book, it's just like, it's so many words, guys. It's every time I sit down to write a book, I'm like, how do I even know this many words? I don't know. And it really just depends. Sometimes I really feel like I don't know enough words, but it's just a lot faster to write a movie than it is a book.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's interesting to hear other people's paces. I'm curious. I don't even know the answer for Isabel. Like, how many pages a day do you write, Isabel, when you're writing? I'm just curious.
I don't think I've. Well, I mean, it really depends on like if it's like if I'm starting the script for the first time, I feel like that's when I have the most motivational energy. So I could definitely do like 10 pages or so in a day. But if I'm just like this last like few weeks where I was finishing my last script, I was looking at it more as scenes because I was trying to like move the story along, right? Like, and get the scenes done. But I mean, I ended mine on exactly 105 pages, so that was like really amazing to me. I would say I was writing like maybe 2 to 3 pages a day. Like,
yeah, it depends on the script. Yeah, I would say minimum like 3, maximum like 10, I think, per day, depending on what we're talking about. Right, so it's interesting to hear, Alys, that you said 10, because I think some people write, well, we all write at different paces, and it's all good if you're writing, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, and I think doing so much prep work makes it a lot easier, because then it's just the fun part, right? It's not like, okay, well, where do I take them now? It's like, okay, I already got the hard stuff out of the way. Now it's just like, how do I make them sing? But yeah, and it does depend too, right? Like sometimes when I'm working, because I've done a couple of horror rom-com features that like I'm working on that I love, but those are so much more intricate. Like it's almost like you compose them more like farce, where you're setting up a ton of stuff, and so things have to be woven in a very different way to romance, like a pure romance. So it does depend. Sometimes I write less, but typically 10 pages first draft in 10 days, and then we edit. Then we make it good.
Yeah, I love that. So you have a fully fleshed out outline before you open final draft or whatever you use.
It depends. It depends on who's paying me. If, you know, so like Hallmark and Lifetime, and Viacom, when I was working for them, they wanted to see everything. So like I had outlines turned into Hallmark that were like 30 pages, and it was like scene by scene. Here's the heading. Here's a couple of sentences of what happens in it. And those got very long because they always had a million questions, and they wanted to make sure those questions were answered, and they wanted to make sure that they are giving you money for a product they can put on TV to sell Balsam Hill trees, right? Like they are very intense about their process. When I'm writing on spec, I usually do a lot of like blue sky daydreaming. It's a lot of like, here's the shape of the thing, rather than like, here is what each scene specifically looks like. But that's where that training comes in, right? Where it's, I have watched a million movies, and I have read a million screenplays, and I know who these characters are, and I know kind of these sort of building blocks of story and how I need to get them there. And it's more kind of all in my head rather than writing it down like in a traditional outline. But I usually know, vaguely speaking, where everything's going to go.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I guess some people are pantsers or plotters,
Yes.
you know, pantsers versus plotters.
How long does that process usually take you though, to like do a whole outline for if you're going to write a movie in 10 days, how much time have you outlined leading up to that?
So sitting down and actually writing the outline, usually like a week, maybe 2, just because it's so intensive, and it's really, you know, you get deep into character and why people are doing what they're doing, and production design and things like that. It's really like a script before the script.
Right.
But the process of getting that approved and doing rewrites and talking to producers and talking to actors, because actors are going to want their input, and all of that process between like the conversations, the rewrites, the waiting for them to be like, hey, here's time in our schedule to meet with you. You know, that could be several months. And by that point, I've been thinking about this basically nonstop. I have the kind of roadmap written out. I have the approval from the execs and from the actors and from the director and everyone else who's going to have their fingerprints on it. And then I get to sit down and do my favorite part, which is dialogue. So it's, you know, you've been doing months and months of just thinking about this thing. So it's a hard question to answer because it's a little bit of both. But
yeah. No, it's interesting to hear, like what networks expect, and how, because Isabel and I are still kind of, we're at the same point where we're still like kind of breaking in and haven't like, you know, formally written a lot of outlines for producers. Yeah, I mean, I've done it a little bit, and I guess, Isabel, have you done that too? Like written outline for anyone?
Yeah, before I wrote I mean, my process sounds very similar to yours in that
Yeah.
like I had to like, have like so much like back and forth at first with the like executives and then outline and then like, yeah, just kind of everyone giving their feedback. And then it just reaches a certain point where it's like, okay, like, can I just start writing the script, like,
yeah, you get so
how
impatient.
much longer are we going to outline this?
Totally. Yeah. Totally different topic again, but I am just curious as well, like back to disability, because this is something we haven't really talked about that much on the show. With disabled leads on screen, especially in the rom-com space, I'm just curious to hear your thoughts, and also if executives are open to having disabled leads, because I just noticed, just anecdotally, it's so rare to see a disabled rom-com at all. Like not that many come to mind, and it's usually about a terminal illness. The ones that come to mind, The Fault in Our Stars or 5 Feet Apart, which I mean, I really enjoy those films, but I feel like there's like so many people, like it's such a vast experience, So I'm just curious about that.
It is. It's really difficult because first of all, like not many rom-coms are being made, right? Like in general, like, so we're definitely not seeing a lot of rom-coms with like underrepresented leads. And it is really disheartening. I go in and I meet with executives who are very excited about me and very excited to talk about, like my deal and, oh, I heard about you from Inevitable, and, like they want to hear like all the gritty details about my disability. And I'm like, pretty sure that's illegal, but okay, I would like this interaction to continue. So we're going to keep talking.
Oh my God.
And, so we talk and I'm like, hey, here's my idea for a disability forward rom-com. And I always get kind of the same stock responses, which are, it's niche, it's too niche. We don't think audiences are going to like it. It's too hard to cast is the other thing that we hear a lot, because I believe very much in authentic casting. I don't want to cast my deaf heroine as like someone who has full capacity to hear. Like, I just don't think that's when, especially, the rom-com that I'm particularly talking about, it's about a music producer with hearing loss. And it's kind of, she has this fling with this rock star, or kind of budding rock star, and they are supposed to kind of come back together to save him from one-hit wonderdom. And it's about kind of like, how do you love something that you're going to lose? And it wouldn't feel right if we didn't authentically cast that. And so then they're like, well, there's no famous actors with hearing loss who can carry this movie. And I'm like, yeah, but if you cast like Harry Styles as the rock star, no one cares about the other girl. Like, yeah. I don't know I'm not doing your job for you. This is not rocket science. We sell movies here. Like, get a handsome guy with a guitar in his hand. Who else cares about the rest of it, Yeah. But like, executives obviously think about a million different things. So it does get very difficult. And then the other thing we hear a lot that is immensely frustrating on more levels than I can really get into in the time that we have today, which is that like there are certain narratives that are deemed acceptable for disability to be in the conversation about, they do not want a wheelchair user heroine unless the story is about her being a wheelchair user, right? Like, they want it to be about like the performance of disability and overcoming disability, rather than just like, I am a person who is experiencing a thing. It's a factor of my life, like having brown hair or glasses, and I'm just gonna fall in love. Like, I would like to have a love story. It's disappointing, and I think we were moving in a better direction. We were trending in one way, and we have seen a really steep pullback in that area. I think politically we've seen, there are legal incentives to get rid of programs that help uplift underrepresented voices in Hollywood. A lot of these programs were getting sued, and a lot of companies were afraid of being sued, so they pulled back on their DEI and IDEA programs. So we are seeing a regression in a lot of ways that I find disappointing. I will say, just because I have to every bad example should have a counterexample. There is a short film. I'm trying to remember what the actual title. It's it's like an anthology film. Let me see. I'll have to look it up and share it with you. But it's about a deaf interpreter who does like video chat interpretation, and she's like working alone late at night, and a guy calls for video interpretation, and she slowly realizes that he is asking her to interpret a sex call, like a phone sex line. And so the two of them start to fall in love while she's also kind of like trying to navigate like translating them have this sex talk, and she's like so uncomfortable, and I have to see if I can find it, but it is
that sounds so good.
The Little Death is what the full anthology is called, and it's the final one in the series. Maybe I'll email you the link and you can put it in the show notes or something.
We'll put it in the show notes.
That is something that is like about disability is a factor of it, but it's not like it's about disability, right? Like it's about we are in a funny, awkward situation that two people are in, and we are now falling in love over it, and isn't this funny? Rather than I am disabled and look at me and I need to be saved by love. It's like that's not really what we're doing here, and I wish we wouldn't. I wish no one would do that here. So I think that's my counterexample is The Little Death, and that final anthology short is so good. Highly recommend.
Okay, that's amazing. Yeah. And I guess the movie Coda, not a rom-com, but of course that comes to mind of something that was made kind of recently that felt different and better to me. Yes. But yeah, and I wonder if there's some connection with like, it's just like a lot of ableism. And then I see that, the perfectionism in rom-coms that we're kind of seeing. Like, I don't know. I would love to see more leads who were have it's part of their story, but it's not the whole story. And it just feels a lot more human if we see more of the human experience, So
well, that's another thing that comes up a lot is like, well, how is she relatable? If she has a disability, how is the average girl going to relate to her? And my response is always like, well, I don't know what it was like to suddenly wake up one day and be a princess. But The Princess Diaries was my favorite movie for like 20 years. And you know why? Because the core of the story is actually about feeling not good enough and then realizing you were good enough all along, right? Like, the story, most of us cannot relate to suddenly waking up one day and being a sleeper agent named Jason Bourne. But like, I know what it's like to be in a situation I don't understand and be scared and have to fight my way out of it and protect people I care about. Like, that's the truth behind the story is always the thing that's going to be relatable. And I wish more executives, financiers, marketers would invest in that kind of storytelling rather than like people are not going to understand unless we literally spoon feed them a disability narrative that we find palatable. So I think it is not for lack of trying on disabled writer and directors' parts that these stories aren't getting made. It is a top-down problem that is really, I think, only going to be solved when more executives with disabilities are at the top. But considering now how many of those programs are being shelved, the future looks uncertain. And I can only hope that independent producers and financiers and spaces like Tubi and places that are really investing in more diverse storytelling because the kind of bigger players are not, I hope that we do see an improvement in at least some avenues of the entertainment industry.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting to think about? I feel like I often think about this, like, who are these people that are like making all these decisions, and like how do they get to these like places they are in life where they're just so it feels like they are so detached from like what people do relate to. And that I have that same like thought as you, where it's just like it isn't like your example of like The Princess Diaries and Jason Bourne, I think are great examples, but it's so funny to me that it does get so lost on the people who are making these decisions, where they're more just like, but we really need like these like two famous like white people to essentially like lead the movie and carry it. And it's like, no.
It feels very exhausting for sure. And I do think the lack of representation, if we're talking about disability, other things, like it has, as rom-com fanatics over here, like I think it if you don't see something, it's harder to imagine it. And I think, you know, with rom-coms, like those are kind of the scripts that I've absorbed since childhood. And I don't know, there's something there with like, I think people, yeah, just seeing leads also deserving of love who aren't cookie cutter characters, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Yeah.
I think I usually, what I often do when I get this pushback from executives is I point out movies like Penelope, or like Blast from the Past, or even like a TV show like Pushing Daisies, where I'm like, these are disability narratives, and these are about love overcoming a boundary that seems impossible. And usually they're done in magical realism ways, so weirdly those feel more relatable. I'm not entirely sure what that's about. But, you know, when you put it to them that way, and you're like, no, we already have these stories, they're just framed differently, and they're put in different boxes. Sometimes that gets through, because then they're like, oh, no, these stories are relatable as long as I look at them differently. And so it's sometimes you have to navigate it like kind of around the problem rather than through the problem. But I wish I didn't have to. I wish I didn't have to be like, you should watch the obscure 2005 rom-com Penelope so we can talk about disability today. You know, like, I wish we didn't have to, but alas, here we are.
I love Penelope. I haven't thought about that one for a while. I need to rewatch it.
It's one of my all-time favorites.
I think I fell in love with, it's James McAvoy, right? I fell in love with him in that one. He was so cute.
So good. The scene, there's like this whole sequence where she's trying to figure out what instrument he plays. Yeah. And when he like first starts playing the piano and she like comes up behind him, that's like my all-time favorite rom-com scene, I think, is he's like kind of screwing around on the piano, and she finally comes out of like her secret hiding place and puts her hands over his shoulders to like help him play and like hit the chords, and I'm like, oh, that's it, that's the romance. That's what we're here for, baby. It's perfect.
Yeah, no, I need to rewatch that one. Reese Witherspoon's in that one. It's so good. It's great. Yeah.
And she plays like a motorcycle chick. It's amazing. Yeah, it's such a good, weird little movie.
I also had a question, moving to a different topic again, but yeah, just like, what are your thoughts on spec sales this year, and how, you know, we were just talking about in the intro, like cold querying, and if that makes sense right now, because, you know, it can be pretty frustrating to not get responses if you reach out to a bunch of managers, that sort of thing. So just advice for breaking in right now. What comes to mind?
Yeah, I mean, I had a very, very weird path to representation and to my career. Like, just broadly, I've had a very weird path, and it's not really replicable. But I will say, as someone right now who is actively cold querying to get a manager, so like I'm in the same boat, I have actually had a surprising amount of success at the moment. I think particularly when you are working in a space realistically, right? Like, I know how to write a $3 million rom-com that will make Lifetime, you know, $50 million in ad revenue. Like, I know how to do something that's going to make somebody money. And the more you can position yourself and your specs that you're writing, I know everybody hears this and it's the most annoying thing in the whole world to hear, but like, it really is the truth, which is like, the fewer barriers there are to them saying yes, the easier the conversation is to have. Like, I write things that are producible tomorrow. Like, I do not take, I take big swings, but I never show them to other people. I'm like, that's for later. That's for release for later. You know, when I have clout, that's going to be my, you know, $30 million rom-com. But right now, I'm like, I can sell a movie between 1.5 and $10 million. And those are the kind of scripts that I write. And those are the things that I bring out to pitch to people. And those are the conversations that I have. I write a bunch of things that are set or could be set in Louisiana, because then I can tell a producer, hey, if you come here, I have a cast. I have a crew. I know where we shoot. You're going to make this X number of tax credits. And like, it's going to be half the cost to make this movie here. So you just have to think kind of bloodlessly about your work and be like, what is the fastest way to go from fade in to we are shooting this tomorrow? And the more you can show in your early communications with managers, with people you're cold querying, that like you understand the reality of the industry, the more seriously they're going to take you. Which is always like the hardest thing to do in 4 sentences, because you pretty much get 4 sentences before their brains shut off, because again, no one in this industry reads. But like, you know, that's the goal, is how do I in 4 sentences convince them I am a professional, I'm a big professional girl who can do this job.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. The marketability of what you have to offer, and just thinking of it that way. Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm kind of curious for someone with like your experience, if you are cold querying at all, are you like reaching out to somebody with a project that you like want to do, or like that you want to sell, or just like trying to sell yourself as like a writer that can just like write whatever idea or project they are looking to hire someone to do?
It's a little bit of both. So like when I go out to managers, I usually have like my top 3 things that I'm like, if I sign with you this afternoon, here's what I would like you to go out with tomorrow. If I am cold querying producers, like I have a couple of meetings set up next week with producers that I cold query just because I had liked their movies, and I was like, they are working in a budget bracket that I'm comfortable with and familiar with. I have the track record in this, this, and this that I can kind of pitch them on. Those I usually go in with like, here is the script that I think you and I could make later this year to sell to whomever. And in the meeting, I'm like, because I think what a lot of people don't really understand about particularly like the movie of the week, TV movie, streamer movie space is like most of these people they don't even want to look at your spec script. Like they're like, we're not buying that. Don't send it. Send us 10 log lines of things you would want us to pay you to write. And so usually I go into these meetings with producers or execs and I'm like, here's a script that I would like to make, but here are 2 or 3 pitches of movies that I think you would pay me to write. So I usually have kind of a working list in my head of, okay, I know what kind of movies they like. I know what kind of talent they usually like to work with. And here are the kind of 3 or 4 top ideas kind of floating around in my brain that I think they could really buy into. Which then, of course, makes it really, really important that everything you're kind of ideating on is commercial and easily pitchable. Like whatever the highest concept of the high concept that you've got is what you kind of need to go into these meetings with. So anyway, to answer your question, long story short, too late. It depends on who you're talking to and what your end goal is. But typically I usually try and have one kind of top line finished project and then a couple of things that I can kind of soft pitch for future works to work on them with.
That's really interesting. That's interesting. I am like, I don't know why that's surprising to me. It's kind of cool that you feel like that's what they want, is like to just like get a list of ideas of like, we would pay you, because I would think that feels like a dream scenario.
Goals.
No, it's great in some ways, but in other ways, you know, like the reason that they want that is because they want to be in every single step of the process. Kind of gone are the days where you let a writer go and then they come back with the script that you love. They want to be every comma, every, you know, how many characters do we have? Can we afford it? You know, especially like the lower of a budget you're working on, counterintuitively, like the more intensive they're going to be about everything you're putting on the page. So it's a lot of, do not hand me a script until we have done, you know, the 4 months of pre-production or pre-writing work. You're not even in pre-production, like pre-writing, and then you can go away and write the script once I'm satisfied you won't screw it up. So yeah, it's a lot of idea kicking around in this industry.
Yeah. And it sounds like, well, I was going to ask, have you had a manager before, or has your approach just been to sell as a writer and then now have a manager?
No, so I never had a manager before. I was at CAA for a while. Very weird story. The first movie I wrote was set in a town where Blaine and Brian Lord are from, and I got an introduction and I got an agent at CAA. And through a series of unfortunate events, no longer work there. Or not work there, but they are they are no longer, I am no longer their client. They no longer work for me. And so with this Netflix thing and kind of wanting to hopefully transition out of movie of the week streamer content and into the theatrical space, I was like, I kind of need a big dog in my corner. So I decided that I wanted to seriously shop to managers, but now I'm also still doing my own stuff and working my connections and working LinkedIn and working, networking events to make the connections to sell things on my own. Because I've never had my agent never sold a project for me. Everything that I got was through like the sweat of my brow, meeting people, working, talking, pitching. So, even if you get the big dog agent like I had, like they're collecting a check at the end of the day in a lot of ways, especially the smaller you are. They're not doing a lot of brand building for you. They're not really working collaboratively. They want you to have done and expect you to do the work. And having CAA is like a lovely thing to have on like your website or your resume, and it does open a lot of doors, and I loved working with them. They were all lovely people who gave me great guidance, and I wouldn't change it for the world. But I don't want anyone out there to be like, well, I'm not with CAA, so I'm never going to sell a project. It's like, no, you're selling the project. At the end of the day, you are selling the project 9.8 times out of 10. So you just have to fight for it yourself, which is why I'm in the email trenches every day.
Yeah, no, that's interesting to hear about, for sure, to think about, because it's very much like chicken or egg. Do you for us, like, do we sell something and then gather the manager later? Do you get the manager first and then
I mean, the manager will come when you have the success, right? They want a proven commodity, especially now. Now more than ever, it is so hard to get anybody on your team if you do not have that kind of proven track record of success, just because things aren't selling the way they used to. People aren't making as much as they used to. Companies aren't producing as much as they used to. The industry is very fractured. A lot of people are working in verticals nonstop. Like, it's just a totally different industry than it used to be. It's no longer useful to have so many people on your roster that you can't really actually manage. So selling things first, I think, is always a way to get somebody on your team, for better or worse. Usually worse, but that's totally. Just the truth. It's just the truth in the current landscape, calling it like I see it and like I'm experiencing it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now preparing for rapid fire questions.
What is your favorite rom-com and why?
Okay, my favorite rom-com is a movie from 1939 called Ninochka. It stars Melvin Douglas and Greta Garbo. It is about a Soviet who comes to Paris right after the war to reclaim some old jewels from like a Russian family. And he's the lawyer for the Russian family. And he's like, I'm going to get this woman through the power of silk stockings. And, she is the most amazing woman in the world. I love her. It has like one of the Marx Brothers in it. It is like a very toothy and political romance that never feels anything heavier than like a waltz. Like, it's just an effortless movie with some of the best romance and some of the best like moral conundrum in a romance. It's like really about like, who am I and who do I want to be? From both of them, because he is like frivolous and vain, and she is serious and conservative, and they both have to kind of meet in the middle and become the people they were always meant to be. And it's a beautiful, beautiful romance. I love it so much. Ball of Fire, starring Barbara Stanwyck, is my other top pick. I love like that golden age romance. Like, there were so many great rom-coms back then. We don't make them like we used to, kids. We don't make them like we used to.
Yeah, no, we've never had that answer before, so we will add that to our list. Do you have a favorite rom-com trope to write?
Oh, man, that's so great. And like, tropes can be big or small. So that's like what I love about it. I love a bet I love a bet so much. I think it's just because like 10 Things I Hate About You was so fundamental. And also I love suffering. I love romance that like makes me suffer. Any like kind of betrayal, right? Like I love the it was all a bet, or I love the you lied to me about who you were, or like, you know, music and lyrics when she realizes he changed her song and then like he has to go back and like fix it, and I think betrayal allows you to get to such a low point that like the romantic high gets so much higher, and that is like what I live for, baby. Like I love it. It's so good to like feel really bad and then feel great. Like it's the dream.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, same. Do you have a favorite rom-com outfit?
Yes. Okay. So in Ball of Fire, which I mentioned earlier, Barbara Stanwyck is a nightclub singer, and she has this like two-piece, like it's like a kind of bikini top, and then like this fire skirt, I guess is how I would describe it, made of sequins. And I'm gonna send a picture to you guys because it is like truly an outstanding like outfit, and every time I look at it I'm like, that's just so gorgeous. And then there's also a really, really beautiful coat in Penelope that Penelope wears that I just think is like one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. It's like purple and has like this fluted pattern on it, and it's just fantastic. So those are probably my picks. And then Felicia DeFosse in Miss Pettigrew Lives for a Day. Amy Adams has this blue coat muff hat ensemble that I just covet so much. It's beautiful.
That's a great film. We haven't talked about that one on the pod. I love that one.
I love that. I can picture that outfit so perfectly.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Do you have a favorite rom-com line or moment? You kind of already answered that earlier in our conversation with Penelope.
Yes,
but...
I do love the Penelope moment at the piano. I really love in Greta Gerwig's modern adaptation of Arthur, which does star Russell Brand, so I'm not really endorsing that anyone go watch it. But there's a moment where they're out in Central Park and they're talking about their favorite books from when they were children. And he quotes her favorite Frog and Toad story to her. And he says, if you were sitting alone, I would bring you a sandwich. And like, it makes me cry every single time. Like talking about it right now, like makes my throat close up. It's so beautiful. And then in Princess Bride, when she says, I will never doubt again. And he says, there will never be a need. Gets me every
time. Have you seen any rom-coms recently that you'd recommend?
Okay, I really loved Fly Me to the Moon, which came out, I think, maybe a year or two ago. Channing Tatum and Scarlett Johansson, really lovely, frothy, weird. Like, it really followed its, like, weirdest bliss, and I loved it so much. Thought it was fantastic. And then, believe it or not, there's a horror movie called Heart Eyes. It's about two people surviving the world's worst first date when they get targeted by a slasher who operates only on Valentine's Day. And, like, so many people are like, oh, Elise, horror rom-com. And they'll send me movies that are, like, not romantic and not funny. There's just, like, a person who gets kissed at one point. And I'm like, that's not a horror rom-com. This is a horror rom-com. It is actually about two people whose love, like, sustains them through the horror, which is, to me, the key of the genre. So highly recommend Heart Eyes. And then also, on that similar note, there's a movie called Your Monster. It's another horror rom-com about a woman who falls in love with the monster living in her closet. And it's
oh my gosh, that's
delightful.
So fun.
So good. Highly recommend. Those are my top 3 probably of the last couple of years.
I want to watch all of those.
Yeah, you've sold me on all of them, and I'm like scared of horror, but I could do horror rom-com, I think, for sure.
Yes. And none of them are like scary. They're like thrilling in a way that I think
awesome.
is fun.
Yeah. Okay, if money didn't matter, what is a rom-com that you would make?
Oh, that's such a good question. There's a rom-com that I really want to make that is like a send-up of My Man Godfrey. So like set in the 1930s, rich kind of reprobate. His father like wants to punish him. So when he finds his son drunk, he like basically throws him onto a circus train and is like, come home when you've learned your lesson. and the son sort of falls in with a disabled woman who is like an ambulatory wheelchair user. So she and her family kind of con people, like they do like religious cons. Or like, oh, look, she can walk. And it's sort of about like the money and the depression and like romance somewhere in there. I haven't really cracked it yet. But then the other one I really want to write and make is a sci-fi rom-com about basically like Kate and Leopold, but instead of a duke, he is an alien who crash lands on Earth at Christmas. And she's like a jaded Christmas movie producer who can't figure out why she doesn't like Christmas anymore. And then she sees it through his eyes and is like, oh, I understand. And he's there to destroy the planet. And he's like, oh no, but now I see Earth through her eyes. And then they fall in love. And like,
that sounds really good.
They avoid destroying the world through the power of Christmas and love, obviously. So those are my top two. My weird 1930s one, and then my Kate and Leopold, but aliens.
I love that.
Amazing.
So what are you working on now, or what's on the horizon for you?
Great question. So right now I am working on a horror rom-com that is basically like if Gomez and Morticia Addams invited you to a battle royale with your like friends with benefits. And like the if you win, you get to be immortal and in love with your partner forever, but you kind of don't know if you even like this guy. And so like you have to fall in love while saving each other's lives. So that one's really fun. And then I'm also working on a rom-com that is about a guy he's like a music composer, and he is working on a movie and he like doesn't have the inspiration, and the director's like, it needs to be sexier. I'm going to send you away on a vacation so you can like figure yourself out. And then the guy gets there and realizes it's a sex resort and has to figure out like, what am I going to do with all these weird sex freaks? And he falls in love with like the woman who works there. So it's really fun. And then similarly along that line, I wanted to do a gender flipped Made in Manhattan set on the West Coast. So like I want Dave Bautista to play this unassuming gardener whose billionaire boss goes away for the summer to like a silent retreat in the middle of nowhere. And Kate Winslet is a divorcee who moves to the mansion next door. And so he's pretending to be his billionaire boss, and she's trying to like get her next rich husband, and they fall in love. And it's all just to like save this community garden in his neighborhood that he loves. And so it's like a very sweet, tender, like kind of throwback old school rom-com that I am very excited. So if anyone knows Kate or Dave, give me a call.
Yeah. No, that you've sold me. That all sounds great. Yeah. To wrap it up, just do you have a website or any socials to shout out?
I do. So Alys Murray, Alys Murray, MURRAY.com is my website. You can find out about my books and my movies there. And then I am at Writer Alys and at Alys Murray Books on Instagram.
Awesome. Cool. It was so nice to meet you, Alys, and chat. I feel like we all have the same vision for like the ideal rom-com. Like you understand what we want again.
Absolutely. No, I'm so glad y'all had me. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for letting this happen.
This has been an episode of When Isabel Met Aviva.
If you want to stay up to date with our episodes, please subscribe. Bonus points if you leave us a positive review.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Threads at When Isabel Met Aviva. See you next time.